What's up, Warriors fans, and welcome back to Warriors Latest. As always, I am your host, Max Arizin. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you enjoy the show today, as I do post new Warriors videos daily. Now, I'm watching the game on Friday, and I can't help but be the most annoyed Dubs fan that I've ever seen in my life, because the Warriors, this was a game that they were going into where they had a bit of an advantage. Look, James Harden wasn't playing, Chris Paul wasn't playing, Bradley Beal wasn't playing. None of the Clippers' main guys were playing, yet they still played catch up the entire game. I believe they only led, or the only point they led in the entire game was 2 minutes into the first quarter, and then the Clippers took it on from there. I'm looking at these stats, and when you have guys like Steph Curry, Al Horford, and Draymond Green, three of your starters that are going into this season as starters, and they're playing what, 22, 20, and 30 minutes, and even Pods is playing 20 minutes, and you still have to play catch up. Bit of a red flag. Now, we could also post this off as, say, all right, it's preseason. They weren't taking it as seriously. They were letting some of the younger guys play, so on and so forth. But for me, I just don't see it that way. I see this as a momentum builder because the Warriors, if they're going to do well this season, they have to build momentum and keep it going, because if it goes the opposite way, things can go south for this team quickly. And I don't want to see them end up in the lottery by accident based off of a poor start out of the gate, because we've seen that plenty of times where good teams just come out of the gate and just trip all over themselves. Next thing you know, injuries pile up, and then other things happen. There's other kinds of drama, which in this case would be Jonathan Kuminga, and it just piles on and piles on. And I just don't want to see the Warriors get a top 10 draft pick. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen just because of this single loss, but going into the season, they are going to play some tough teams out of the gate. And games like this, where teams without their star players are beating the Warriors, I won't say handily, but they're maintaining control of the game from the get-go. And now, even though it was close, it was a 3-point game or a 3-point loss, but it felt like a 10-point loss. It was close, but it never felt close, because every time the Warriors would punch, the Clippers would be right there with a counter punch. So just games like these concern me, because I'm looking at who actually scored the most points. It's like Steph was the leading scorer with 20. I think the next one was Will Richard with 13. And that's just not a good look. Now, they did spread out the minutes with Buddy Hield, Santos, as well as some of the other guys who ended up getting released later this weekend. But it's problematic, because I look at the Clippers lineup. Their leading scorer was a rookie, I believe. Yeah, Kobe Sanders was their leading scorer, and I don't anticipate him getting a lot of minutes during the regular season, as you have guys like John Collins, Chris Dunn, Bradley Beal, Ivan Zubac, and Derrick Jones Jr. to really help you out off the bench. So I just don't see that happening. And on top of that, it was just John Collins and Ivan Zubac manning the middle, and they were able to take full advantage of both Horford and the likes of Quentin Post. I'm looking at Post's numbers right now, and 17 minutes, 1 for 6, 3 points. That's not a good sign, especially when that's your only 7-footer. Now, I will say I do think the Warriors are going to get another 7-footer. I don't know how, but they're going to find a way to bring one in. I did see that Alex Len was just let go by the Knicks, so he is a promising ideal, at least backup center, to have a 3-man rotation with Post and Al Horford. So I do see that happening, but they got to move off some guys. There's certain guys that they're under contract, but I don't know if they belong. And that's really what brought me to the next surprise, which was the Warriors releasing Seth Curry. Now, we knew this was going to happen. We knew this was coming. It was sort of an inevitability based off of the contract situations. He was on an Exhibit 9 deal, had the opportunity, but because the money didn't work out, nothing was going to come of it. But it made me wonder. There had to be another way to sort of extend the books. Looking at these guys during preseason, outside of Steph, nobody was very reliable from 3 point. Yes, we had a couple good ones by Horford, a bunch of good ones by Quentin Post, but there was no consistency. And when you have a guy like Seth Curry who hit who hit the three at from 45 or at 45% last season, you you got to make at least a little bit of an effort to get some wiggle room. Yes, I know he's getting re-signed next month once he's on a more prorated cap-friendly deal, so they don't go over the second apron. But they could have done something to really just at least try, at least explore the market, find a way to maybe just trade a guy for some non-guaranteed contracts and then release those contracts. There definitely was a way, and I'm just disappointed that the Warriors didn't look at least a little bit. They were so hyper-focused on what they were going with. And just after the D'Anthony Melton signing, I just had a lot of question marks because he's not going to be back until October 30th. And on top of that, he's coming back from a torn ACL. And you're signing him over the likes of Seth Curry, who can hit it from three at a 45% clip. Like, if you think about it in baseball terms, that's like hitting 450, and that basically makes you the greatest hitter ever. So I still don't understand that Melton move. Yes, maybe they like him, but we need a reliable 3-point shooter outside of Steph. I mean, we haven't had that since Clay left, or I guess Clay fell off a bit. I won't say he completely fell off. I still think he's got something left in the tank, but we need that second reliable 3-point shooter. It's not going to be Buddy Hield. It's not going to be Jimmy Butler. It's not going to be Kuminga, and it's definitely not going to be Draymond. So having a guy like Seth there, would be very beneficial, especially to start off the season, because starting off the season, the Warriors have to play a fully healthy Lakers, but LeBron-less Lakers. And I say they're fully healthy in the sense because I think they're going to be better fully healthy against us in the opening night game without LeBron than they would have been with LeBron, because Luka Doncic, very ball-dominating player, needs the ball to be effective on the court. LeBron is the exact same way, and having those two on the court, while we think it may work, sacrifices have to be made. And I think this will give us a full preview of how the Lakers are going to be moving forward. Marcus Smart's going to be ready to go. Luka Doncic is going to be ready to go. Their entire starting lineup outside of LeBron is going to be ready to go. We're going to see full-on DeAndre Ayton. Hopefully he doesn't take full advantage of Quentin Post like he did last time. But I think they're going to be a problem in this game. They're going to be hungry. It's their home opener on the crypto court. They want to beat the Warriors bad because predictions say the Warriors are going to be the top seed in the West this season. So they want to make sure they beat the pants off of us. And I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think the Warriors will come out and just come out punching. And with Draymond, with Jimmy, and Steph coming out all fully healthy, having Al Horford right there to stretch the floor, as well as the likes of Pods and say even Kuminga coming off the bench, I think that's going to be enough to get that first win. But I do anticipate this being a very, very tight game because it's going to be a punch for punch. But at least now, since we didn't have Jimmy on Friday, it's going to be a fully healthy lineup, and I do like where we're going to go with this. But that being said, we have to realize that going into the season, we're facing 5 playoff teams from last year in our first 9 games leading up to our first qualifying match in the NBA Cup. And on top of that, that first qualifying match is against the Denver Nuggets. So we do need to come out swinging and at least have a record of, I want to say, all right, let's aim for 7-2. Beat these playoff teams and show that we're not here to mess around. We're here to win a title. And I think having Jimmy with that full off-season regimen as well as a full training camp is really going to pay dividends to getting off that hot start. But we need them to be aggressive out of the gate. We need them to just keep on firing. And at least by the time the NBA Cup comes around, the Warriors will be able to re-sign Seth Curry as he'll be on a cheaper prorated deal. So at least I see like going into a semi-playoff mode in November in the NBA Cup. They're going to have some reinforcements coming back, and I do like that. But they gotta at least beat 4 of these 5 playoff teams. The other guys, they should be able to beat without a problem. I believe the other guys were like the likes of the Kings, the who was it? The Blazers, as well as a few others who really weren't that much of a threat, but they could be on any given Sunday type of scenario where they just come out guns blazing at the first quarter and we end up playing catch up for the rest of the game. But they need to win a lot of these games going into the NBA Cup, because if they don't, if you're just stumbling into the NBA Cup games, say 3-6 or 4-5, or worst case scenario 2-7, that's not a good look because they're just stumbling all over themselves. And if the Warriors are going to win a championship, they can't have this happening. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, if you enjoyed the show today, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you have any ideas on who the Warriors should bring in, say on a prorated contract, and maybe even just let go of some players, feel free to comment below, as I love hearing your ideas. And as always, go Dubs.